Moving on, US President Donald Trump has hinted at holding discussions with Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro, who has been in crosshairs of American military buildup in the Caribbean. Trump offered no further details about the possibility of talks, though he suggested he would keep up the pressure on the Maduro regime. The Venezuelan Communications Ministry, however, did not immediately respond to a request for a comment.
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk. Venezuela would like to talk. What does it mean? You tell me. I don't know. You want to talk to them? I talk to anybody. I talk to you, right? I talk to anybody. We'll see what happens.
News of possible discussions between US and Venezuela came as Washington formally designated what it says is a cartel run by Venezuelan president as a foreign terrorist organization. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the decision on Sunday, saying the Cartel de la Soles works alongside other designated foreign terrorist organizations and is responsible for widespread violence and drug trafficking across the region. US officials say the designation comes amid a major American military buildup in the Caribbean, including the deployment of USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group as part of Operation Southern Spear. Washington says the buildup is needed to counter smuggling networks. Meanwhile, Caracas claims the move is part of a plot to topple President Maduro, an accusation that US officials reject. Marco Rubio reiterated long-standing US allegations that Maduro and senior Venezuelan officials lead the organization, asserting they have corrupted key state institutions. Since the US launched its anti-trafficking campaign in September, at least 83 people accused of moving drugs in international waters have been killed, including 3 in strike in the Eastern Pacific. The US has not provided evidence that those targeted were traffickers, and experts warn the killings may constitute extrajudicial actions. Meanwhile, Pentagon announced another attack on the alleged drug trafficking vessel in the Eastern Pacific. The US Southern Command has described the vessel as being operated by a designated terrorist organization. It said the vessel was transporting narcotics along a well-known trafficking route in international waters. 3 men, characterized by officials as narco-terrorists, were killed in the operation, the 21st known attack on drug boats by the US military since early September. It was carried out under an order attributed to US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. And DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us with more. Akshay, what does US President's suggestion of talks with Venezuelan leader Maduro imply?
What we are looking at, especially US's strategy, with regards to Venezuela at this point in time, is a classic carrot and stick, strategy that is being used by the US president. On one hand, he's saying that he's open to talks with the Venezuelan president Maduro, and on the other hand, the build-up is in a way, a pressure tactic to force the Venezuelan leadership to get into talks with the U.S. Government, especially Donald Trump. Now, this can be regarding a range of reasons that includes the drug trafficking issue, the other kind of cartel-related violence issues that are that is also perpetrating quite a lot of violent crimes in the U.S. soil, on the U.S. soil. So that is perhaps one of the political issues that U.S. President Donald Trump would like to solve, be it the inflow of different kind of drugs, different kind of narco, other kind of narco objects that are getting into the U.S. soil at a rapid pace, and what we are looking at, especially in the last 6 months, what we have seen is that the pressure keeps on building up. There have been several attempts by the U.S. government to remove Maduro. There have been calls given by the U.S. government for Maduro to step away from the leadership roles. Otherwise, there could be devastating, action like war situation. So the situation remains complicated. But this new strategy, after a long time, President Trump has suggested talks with Maduro, and that seems like, the kind of pressure tactic that were earlier being made are not working out properly for the US, and it seems that a second, for after a long time, an olive branch is being given to Maduro. That there is an off ramp. You can get get into talks with the US leadership. Agree to their demands that they are making, and that there can be sort of a stalemate or a ceasefire between the two countries. So that is what we are looking at right now, Shubhendu.
And meanwhile, U.S. targeting of alleged narcotics vessels in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific continues. What reactions are you picking up from various stakeholders?
Well, the US government will have to keep on doing something about the drug issue. It was not just a political issue, it's also a major societal issue there in the US. A lot of people, not only a lot of people are losing their lives, but also at large, it's costing the state a lot. But the issue of fentanyl, the issue of cocaine and other kind of narco drugs getting into the US soil have been an issue for a very long time, but especially in the last elections, a fentanyl issue was picked up by a lot of political stakeholders there, and Venezuela has been accused of being a major drug supplier to onto the US soil. The kind of attacks that are being carried out is a pressure tactic to also assure the electorate that there something is being done, action is being taken. That was a poll promise of Donald Trump. While that is happening, an off ramp is being given to Maduro that you can all this can go away. This can stop if you can just get into negotiations with the US, and in a longer term get closer to the US in terms of trade, in terms of diplomacy and other areas. So that seems to be the larger message. But clearly, on one hand, talks are being offered, and on the other hand, build up to force Maduro to get into these talks.
Akshay, thank you for those updates. Still to come on DD India News Hour.